Hello, welcome to week 9 practice part. The practice part of this week, what is about? It is about introduction to Unity. So this is the last block where we dive into um, more advanced modes of real-time interactive media which we require for certain types of digital narratives, not for all digital narratives, but for some. We will check out the game engine Unity. I originally planned to cover Unity earlier in this course, but because of the nature of how it happened to happen here, and we have a lot of students from different fields, different years, so I had in practice cover more basic stuff to account for this development. So we only have 3 sessions for the basic of Unity, but I still want to keep at towards digital narratives along interactive novels, 2D games, all those things to add interactivity to 2D images, and do it in a way where you can see and do it in a way that is potentially for your practice, for your future practice, quite powerful. Okay, so introduction to Unity. So we will first uh, figure out what is Unity, install Unity, create a Unity project. Then we need to look at the basics of the interface of the software. And then right away we want to start importing images, ideally with Alpha. And then also we want to start importing and play image sequences. Okay, so this is what I want to cover in introduction. Why Unity? Okay, so it's a valid question when you ask why Unity, what is Unity? And Unity, when we check that out, is one of the top 2 leading game engines. It's not only a game engine, it's a real-time development platform and through which you can create anything from 3D, 2D, VR, AR, visualizations for games, the auto, transportation, film, animation, for gallery, art projects, for interactive projects of all of sorts. Okay, so check out Unity. We teach Unity in different courses at RMIT. You may come across in future courses. It is, if you want to do interactive, more interactive media, then I highly recommend Unity, because one of the big advantages of Unity is that you can export to multiple platforms. So if you work with Unity, you make a project with Unity and you can export to Windows, you can export to Mac, to Linux, to web. You can play Unity projects in web. You can export them to mobile, to Android, to iPhone. You can export to PlayStation, to Xbox, to Oculus, to many different things. Okay. The other alternative, if you say you want to do, want to look in that, is Unreal game engine. Okay. Unity and Unreal are the 2 leading game engines in the world of interactive real-time media. So these are the 2 options. I favor Unity because there's Unity more independent, and developers work with Unity because you can make projects by yourself with small teams. Unreal is like, all those very huge AAA games are created with Unreal, where there's $1 million budget with an army of people working, and then you can go to Unreal. You can also do it with Unity, but that's kind of the thing with Unreal. Okay, so Unreal is like a big production thing. It's rarely that you encounter small independent artists working with Unreal. They mostly work with Unity. Okay, so let's check out installing Unity. Okay, so when you can go on the Unity website, you can get it. Okay, let's get started. So the basic what we will install is for free. Okay, so the individual license is for free. Okay, so that's the personal one is for free. Also, there's now new the student version of it. Okay, but I think I haven't checked it. But I think you need to verify yourself as a student license. I think you need to log in with your student account. I haven't checked that. Okay, so far let's go with personal. Now let's check out sign up. What would you need to do for the student one? Okay, so it says here it's for the US and the EU, so I'm not sure if it works out. Let's go with the personal. It you don't have a lot of troubles with the personal anyway. So no, that's not what I wanted. So what I want is download Unity. Okay, so when you download Unity, you have two options. You can either install the software by itself, or you can download a software with which you can manage the Unity installations. I highly recommend that you install, if you do it the second in the second option. Okay, why? Because with Unity you often need to have different versions, and with this software it allows you to manage different versions. Okay, so when you download Unity, don't go for choose your Unity plus download. Choose download Unity Hub. Okay, so you download the Unity Hub, you install that. And through that, let's go for it. Okay. Let's fire it up. Okay. So regarding here, let me check something. So regarding the manual activation, so with your manual, so what you need to, before you do that this problem with the license gets solved, you need to have an account. So up on the top right you have the account settings, and if you sign in, it lets you create one. You fill that out and create a Unity IT. Let me just do. Okay, so once you have done that, okay, so you get a Unity account, then suddenly you can activate new license, and then when you select Unity Pro Personal and say that you're not using it as a professional capacity, you have it activated. Okay, and then you can go back to your installs and add a Unity version. Okay, so this is now the software itself. The Unity Hub is kind of the management side of it. It's like Adobe Cloud, but then you need to install the particular software. And in this case, you get the latest official release, which is in this case right now Unity 2019.3.12. And depending what you aim for, depending based upon the platforms you want to publish on, you install those features. Okay, so we only so in our 3 sessions we only will publish to desktop, to Windows or Mac respectively. Okay, so in that case I don't need the Android, the iOS, not the Linux, not the web. I only need the Windows and the Mac support and the documentation, and I'm done. And now it downloads and installs. Okay, so I will pause for that. So I repeat on that. So when you work with Unity, I recommend that when you look for Unity, you check out Unity download, and you want to download Unity, but you download the hub. You download the hub, which is the management software for Unity, and then you create an account. You sign up with your name, create a password, and then when you're logged in, you can add a free license, a personal license, with which you can use Unity for free, as long as you don't earn money with it. Okay, so this is for your learning purposes perfect. And then you just install the latest version of Unity, which takes some time. Okay, Unity is like a big program, and it takes some time to download. Okay, so we'll just we'll pause this, and then we'll be back when after the download. Okay, so you have now installed Unity Hub and plus the latest version of Unity, and then in your Unity Hub you now see in your installs the version of Unity that you have, and here's some icons that indicate for which platform you can use it to publish it. In this case, this is my other account. They have different version of Unity. And in my projects, so in your installs, there are the different version of Unity, and your projects, there where your Unity projects live. And you can see here, for example, this is a project, and then I can open it with different versions. Okay, so this, don't worry about it too much. Okay, when you're on your projects, you create a new one, and that opens this dialog. And in our case, we're fine with 2D. This location is where all your project relevant files will be stored. This is a very important folder. Let's say project name, give it a name that makes sense. Okay, let's create. Let's wait until Unity fires up. Okay, finally Unity loads up, and this is how it looks. The interface might be darker or grayer, so lighter or darker, but this is how it looks. Important for the beginning now is when you look up to your top right side, the layout. When you click on different layout examples, you can see that the layout changes. Okay, let's keep it on the default. Okay, so your 1, 2, 3, 4 big areas, five areas. This one in front of you, that is your scene view. Okay, so this is like your document view in Photoshop and Illustrator, etc., etc. This is where you can see things sharp in your on your page. Okay, down here is your project menu window. This is where all files are managed that you use in your project. This is your project window in After Effects. This is your media server in Premiere, etc., etc. Okay, all your files that you use in your project are down here. Then when you have something in your scene, it shows up here in the hierarchy listed. So I can see here I have a sample scene. This is here, and in this sample scene I can open it. I see the main character, and you see in the moment this becomes active. Okay, so whatever is in your scene shows up in the hierarchy. And if I select it, I can inspect it. I can see some more details of what it is in my inspector view on the right. Okay, so and that applies on things that I select in my project window. When I select a folder, I get some info over here in my inspector. If I click on stuff in my hierarchy, I get some info. If I click on stuff in my scene view, things become selectable. It shows up in my hierarchy as well, but it also shows up in your inspector. Okay, so this is the main things, you know, the 1, 2, 3, 4 main windows that you work with. Then at the top you have menu stuff, and that's the main windows that you have. Then here in the scene view, that's maybe a little bit confusing. Unity has like 2 modes. One mode is you making your project, and then the other mode is playing your project. So you can see here the camera preview. When you switch to game, you see this is what your game looks like in a moment. It just looks like nothing. It's just blue void, and because nothing in there. So when I hit play here, you can see how everything starts to turn gray, and automatically my game view gets selected. So this is now when I play the game, yeah, but nothing is in the game because, you know, I just didn't do anything. Okay, so I go out of the game mode, and I'm back into the edit mode, if that makes sense. Okay, so that's that. Okay, so these are these windows. Then it might be that this is the first time that you start working in the direction to 3D. Okay, you know, we made a 2D project. In order to navigate in this scene, I can scroll in with my mouse, get closer, far away. I can hold Alt and click left on my mouse in order to move around. Yeah, and that's kind of, you go in and out, and move around. This is what you do in 2D. In 3D, you would also have rotation in there. And you can see up here, you also have the same. So when I click Alt on my keyboard, you can see automatically up here, those menu items get selected. Okay, so I don't need to use the shortcuts on my keyboard, but I can. So either I click on this hand tool and move around. This don't do anything. Okay, so this is the navigation part, the hand. The zoom in the hand is navigation. Now when I want to transform objects, this is now the next part of things. So in this case, I only have the main camera. So when I select this arrow move tool, I now can see I get a gizmo. I get an icon that indicates the axis along which I can move the object. So if I hover over the arrow pointing up and I move and I drag on it, I move it up. The other arrow, I move it left and right, and then there's an area that connects those two areas, those two arrows. Then I can move it along the plane, the XY plane, to move it along. Yeah, let me see. You see the icon here? This is when it kind of switch from 2D to 3D. So I can now see that this is basically also a 3D perspective. And if I hold down Alt and left mouse clicking, I can now rotate around. I can see, this is an indication of this is three-dimensional, and I get this other gizmo up there where I can see it from different perspectives. Okay, so but that doesn't worry us. Okay, so 2D is fine at the moment. Okay, we don't worry about the additional axis at the moment. Yeah, so maybe other shortcuts. You know, I have selected the camera, and I can press on my keyboard W for move, E for rotate, R for scale. Okay, and all these gizmos work similar. So you see the indication of the axis, the dimension of space, Y and X and Y. And if I click one or the other or both, and it transforms accordingly. You know, this case and I can press Ctrl C to make it, yeah. So when I do that, when I select it and move it around, I can see in my inspector what it's doing. You know, when I move it to the right, I can see here in the position that my X value changes. So I can move it here with the gizmo icons, or I can change it up here with dragging the X value up and down, or type in values themselves. Okay, so these units here are meters. These are physical units, which has a reason because later when you apply physics, that their physics behave similarly than in the on planet Earth. Yeah, okay, so good. All right, so let's start. So what we need to cover, we installed Unity, we created Unity project, we checked out the basics of Unity interface. Okay, so you see my guide to software is always a very selective guide. It's like you don't need to worry, you don't need to understand all the buttons in order to make your study project. Okay, so let's start importing stuff. Okay, so let's assume so we focus on 2D because 2D is much easier compared to 3D, because we don't have issues like we have one dimension less, we don't have an X value in space, and additionally we don't need to worry about what's that, light and materials. Okay, I make a new document. So this depends, the sizes of your resolution depends on which platform you output. Let's assume it's HD. It's usually a good guess. Okay, so here I make what am I doing? I make something that is my environment. Okay, so I save this Photoshop file. On my desktop and make another one, which is kind of my character stuff, my objects, and yeah. So I can see it has alpha, you know, so I can see behind, and there's nothing there. It's just a rectangle in the foreground. And I also save that on my desktop. Yeah, okay, let's see what we do with it in Unity. So the thing is, it's very important, like when you work in InDesign, like when you work in After Effects, like when you work in Premiere, where you have your stuff is important. So you can see here in your project menu, you have your assets, and your assets, that's a name for the stuff you use. Okay, so all the accessoires, all the stuff you use in your project should be in your assets. So in your assets, I create, here's a folder where all your scenes are in. So this is a Unity project, and in this Unity project there's at the moment one scene, which is like what we look at right now. And in your asset, I make here another folder. Right click, create folder, and it's where I collect all the images. I go in there and I click right click, import new asset. I can also do that via the menu up here, assets, import new assets. Okay, in this case I click on down here, import new asset, and now I gonna find my background, and I gonna also import my red rectangle, and I drag now, see if I just drag it into my scene, I can change, I can select, I can choose where I drop it, and it shows up there, or I drag it here and it shows up there. When I do that, you know, it immediately shows up in your hierarchy. So your hierarchy shows everything that is within your scene. If I drag it in the scene, in the hierarchy window, it automatically snaps to the center of your scene. Okay. I also do that with the maybe make something. Okay, so first I do, in this case, the rectangle, and I can see through it. So by default, if I have an alpha in Photoshop and I import the Photoshop file, I don't need to do anything for the alpha to show up. Okay, I can see through that document. That's good. And then I put in the, okay, yeah, whatever. Yeah, I hope it didn't work, but okay, good. So in this case, my rectangle is in front of the, why did it work? Let me make a new one, just to show you a problem that might happen. Desktop, Tequa, rectangle, Unity, where are you? Yeah. Let's go new asset. Okay, great. And now, okay, that's good. What else? Yeah. So important is, you see what I did. If I now go back to my desktop, so this rectangle here and I should change it, you know, and save it. It did not change in Unity. Why? Because what Unity did is show in Explorer. When I did import new asset, it took the original PSD file that was on my desktop and copied in the folder. See? In here. So these are the folder structure that, you know, wherever I have my Unity project saved, in there it copies all the relevant images. Okay, these are references. I'm suddenly lost where it is. Okay, so these are references in there. Okay, so if I now wanna open it up, and now I wanna change it. See, and now it's updated. Okay, so these are references, and when I import that in the folders in my assets, it's copy pastes those files into the folder structure. Okay, so this is very important for your project management to remember that. Ooh, that looks very ugly. Okay. Okay, so one thing that should be now bothering us is about the order, you know. So you can see that these are not layers, right? These are, and you can see here 3Ds things, and you know, I can arrange those things in 3D. And now I can, you know, see them in two-dimensional space. I can either move it. So for the turquoise rectangle is before, I move it before or behind, and I see it behind. All right, but this is not how you work in 2D. This is not in 2D how you work. Is it now returned? Yes. It should have all 0C. All these things have 0C. And for example, that I now want to the red one. The red one is now on top of the turquoise one. I cannot change it here in the hierarchy because these are not like Photoshop layers. See, it does not change, it doesn't come before. And if you want to do that, you need to create layers. Okay, so this is the first complicated thing that we're gonna do. So you have the background. I say the background, there are additional settings. Oh, let me get out of the way. There are additional settings, and you have a sorting layer. And I create here a sorting layer and say, you know, I have one layer that is my background. Background. I have another one that's, I call it mid-ground. And another one which is my FG. Let's have MG and G. So these are background, middle ground, and foreground. And then I can assign them. So I see sorting layer, background, so they're shown up. The right triangle is, let's make the right one in the middle ground and the other one in the foreground. Yeah, and it happens to be. If this is not how it is, I can now here change the order. So this is now how layers work in Photoshop. So I want the foreground last, the middle ground before the last, and the background. Okay, so it's reversed. Okay. Awesome. So we have 2D images. They show up in Unity with alpha. We understand where they're stored, and we can sort them in space to see what is on top of the other one, etc. So let's go one step further and say, well, yeah, but what if I have a sequence of images? You know, I have moving images. What do with that? So let me quickly make an image sequence. Let's fire up. It's just relevant wherever you created an image sequence. I just make an example one in After Effects very quick. Fire up After Effects. Yeah, do whatever. HDTV. Whatever. So I will just do a random image sequence. Okay, so I have here a little animation. I export it as an image sequence. Let's throw it out as a PNG sequence that has alpha, RGB and alpha, so I can see through the backgrounds, and I save that on my desktop. I call it pink rect, and let's fire it up. Boom. And bring that into import asset. So now desktop, here's a full folder. For that to work, I Control A, collect all the images, and they are numerical. When I export image sequences out of After Effects, they have chronological titles. And I import a sequence and have all the images by themselves in there. And if I select them together, so now like shift select them, the first one, and shift the last one, and watch what now happens. So first of all, what it did now when I imported Shine Explorer, it copy pasted all the PNGs into my image asset folder. Okay. Now watch carefully what happens now. I drag and drop that into the hierarchy. And what that is now creating is creating a new animation. So Unity knows when I select images that are named according to a chronological order, a sequence of numbers, and I drop them into my scene, it knows, there's somebody who wants to do an animation, an image sequence, and it will create an animation object. I say pink rect animation, and I now have my pink rect animation here somewhere. Let's make it foreground visible here, which is in this case still behind this one. Let's go that into the middle ground. Okay, so I have now only alone okay. So and now I'm supposed to now have this animation object, which is a conversion of here of image sequence, and Unity made this additional objects here. And when I click on this animation object, so what is that? Yeah, that's a node, but here's the prect animation object that was created. If I double click on that, I get another window. It's called animation, and nothing happens here because I need to find, I need to select it, and now this play button is selectable, clickable. When I click on that, I can see my animation plays. And I show you another window. So this window opens when I have window, animation. There is the animation. This is this window here, in which I can start playing animations if I have any, like this one. And I have another window. It's called animator. Okay, this is now when it gets complicated. Should have I should have said something at the beginning. So Unity, you need to imagine Unity as where Unity is created. Okay, Unity is alone only for making Unity. What do I mean with that? I mean with that, in Unity you do not create those parts. In Unity you don't do illustration. You don't do modeling. You do in Unity you don't do 3D modeling. In Unity you don't make images. You don't draw textures. In Unity you don't create those objects. You know, in Unity is more like a management tool. Unity is an authoring software where all those parts you put together and link them in order to make your Unity. In Unity, you don't even do programming. Let me show you what I mean with that, you know. So the magic now with this is, you know, so we have now a couple of objects in there, and they have different states, and you can see I can link things somehow together. I can play something, but now it's the question. The next step is now for me to put in the behavior, you know. This animation plays if something happens, you know, but what should happen, you know, when I click something on my keyboard, when something touches something, when something moves down or whatever. So the next step would for me to think about the behavior, programming the behavior. So we'd now create another object called a script, and now I want to edit the script. Now if I double click on the script, you can now see that Unity opens another program. In this case it goes to Visual Studio, and here now I can start programming. Okay, so you don't even do program in Unity. So this is another software that's get created. Unity is alone management stuff where you link things together to create the Unity of your projects. So this is difficult a little bit at the beginning. What is Unity? No, you don't design anything in Unity. You put things together. Okay, maybe you can say you do authoring or management stuff in Unity. In Unity, you create Unity. Yeah, and I don't want to do anything other than that. I think that's enough for the first session. Okay, important. So this is now when we start become serious. Okay, so this, okay, so but what now happens? You know, we have images in there, we have elements, we have assets in there, we have foreground, backgrounds, we have stuff that moves. But why? You know, why? What happens? Why does this animation play and so on? You know, this is now the next step when we try to set up behaviors, and this is the next session next week. For now, just contemplate about the Unity is a new paradigm. It's uncomparable software so far in your education, I think. Even if you have done 3D before, you know, this is not, you don't do real-time linking things so far. It's mostly it's a little bit similar like web design, you know, where you have elements that have behaviors that when the users does certain things happen. What we did is we installed Unity. It was a little bit strange because there was a hub in between, and you had to make an account, and you had to install the latest version. And then when you install, you need to install certain features of it. You know, this is a little bit strange with Unity for you to wrap your head around. Then you create a project. You know, projects are like folders. that live separately. So when you import certain things, they are copied into this folder structure. So that means when I now want to have access to the this Unity project somewhere else, I should have copied the whole folder in which my project lives. Then we had a look at the very basics of the interface. We understand that this is the scene view, you know, where all your stuff shows up when you throw it into action. This is your document view, roughly. Everything that is in your document view is also shows up in the hierarchy. In the moment you select something, wherever that might be, including the project view, where everything is stored, all the parts of your project are stored in your project view, show up in your project view, and wherever you click on something, in the scene view, in the hierarchy view, in the project view, it shows up with some detailed things in your inspector. And to understand all the things that your inspector tells you, like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in the inspector. And then, yeah, that's it. Okay, and then there are other help windows, like the animation, the animator window, which then you need to figure out how to manipulate and trick into doing what you want it to do. Okay, so this is for you to settle in. This is for you to get acquainted with. Unity is quite rich, so it's not so difficult, you know, to throw stuff into. Okay, so that's easy. But then, you know, throwing the behavior, you know, Unity is really then when you start programming into with a programming language that is in this case C#. This is when it becomes powerful. Okay, so this is not because 3D modeling you do somewhere else, image illustration, everything you do that somewhere else. But then in the software that Unity opens into, and with you managing those scripts and behaviors, this is when the project comes to life. And you need to think about if that is something you want to do in your career, because it's very deep and there are a lot of things to it. And it takes a thorough introduction to programming principles in order to do something properly. You know, we will sketch the surface, we will see with mouse input, with keyboard input to trigger certain animations in there. So we get some basic graphic novel, interactive graphic novel prototype, something like that in the direction. But if you really want to do something complex, yeah, you need to invest proper time into that. So also you find below this video some more on the essential of Unity 2019. You know, always with software, always check if it's the latest version, because this software changes radically. Unity 2019 is very, very, very different to 2018 when you zoom into some details. You know, how it works with what's the name of it, with packages and all those things. Okay, good. So this was the first introduction to Unity. Yeah, let's see what we can do. We have 2 more sessions with Unity. We will start throwing in some interactive behavior next session. Okay, so embrace yourself, and looking forward. Okay, thank you.